it over, and I'm going to do all this off camera, so you don't have to worry about having to watch the whole thing all over again. Okay? Okay, so at this point, I've got everything all laid out inside. I put some risers in the sand inside so that I won't have a lot of shrinkage. I've poked a hole to pour the stuff in. I've made a pouring basin, and I forgot to make a little riser on the other side to watch the metal come up to the surface, which would have been a nice thing too. But I lucked out because I've got two risers inside the sand, internal risers, and they turn out to be quite large enough to make everything work out. I'm not in the habit of putting vents in the sand, and so far I've got by with that. It's worked out just fine. Uh, so I guess the thing to do now is to get out here and get the foundry cranked up. And normally that thing's roaring loud over everything. I managed to get that thing off the top of that cabinet and sitting down on a couple of bricks, but I can tell you that was a strain. That's just that flask is too big and too heavy for an old geezer like me. Now over to the left there, I got some hard drive cases and various sundry pieces of aluminum that I'm going to feed into the furnace. And once I've got those fed in, the thing's cranked up real good. I'll go back in the garage. I've got some stuff left over from various pieces of kitchen utensils that had Teflon coated aluminum. You don't want to stand downwind to that because burning Teflon is toxic. Now I got the camera sitting back here where hopefully I'm fixing to pull the crucible out of there, and hopefully you'll be able to see me do all the work, clean all the crud off of all the junk off the aluminum, and and then pick up the crucible, go over there and pour the stuff. Cut the fuel, cut the air, open the top, grab my tongs, and pull out the crucible. Now, at this point, I will discover that some of that stuff that I put in there has melted on the outside of the crucible, and I've got metal down in the bottom of the furnace. I'm not sure just how I'm going to handle that, but there it is down in there, and it's not. I don't know what I'll do to clean it out. It may not be stuck really tight, so I may be able to just go in there with a screwdriver and pop it all loose. That's something I'll have to try. It's too hot right there to mess with it, though. All right, let's get the little pieces. Well, they got to get all the sludge and junk off the top of the aluminum. You've always got that, and I actually wind up, I've got more than enough aluminum here because I've got my little mold down out there in the grass to make ingots. And when I get through with this, I'll have enough to fill up the mold. Won't run it over, but it'll fill it right up to the top. Okay, got all the slag off of it. So we'll get ready to pick the little booger up. And in just a second, well, if I can get everything wiggled around right, there you go. There we go. I got the clamp so my flask doesn't roll over. Pick it up, ease myself around here, and I'm watching where I'm going so I don't trip and spill aluminum all over me. And we're going to do the pour. There it goes, right down the hole just like it ought to. And of course, once the hole gets full, it sort of runs out across the top there and catches my flask on fire. And now I can pour all the excess over into my ingot mold over there. And you can see it fills it right up to the top. Of course, now then I've got my I've got my flask on fire, and in a little bit I'll have my grass on fire. All interesting and wonderful things to do. And I'm going to take that little rake and push the hot metal back off of the flask so that it doesn't totally destroy the thing. I guess it's good that all the burning's on the outside there where it won't hurt me anyway. Now then, we'll zoom in on it here, give you a good look at a mold full of aluminum, and it's stuff's starting to creep back down toward the wood again, and I'll have to push it back up from there. But there you go. I still got to push that aluminum back a little bit, keep it from burning my wood. All right, so now all we have to do is wait a couple hours for the thing to cool off, and I'll take a break and go get something to eat while that thing's cooling off, you know. So let's just, you know, you see the grass is starting to catch on fire over there now, and we'll come back and take it out of the mold in just a little bit. All right, so we got a couple of fine big ingots there left over that used to be crumbs and parts of aluminum that were left over from busting up old cookware and such things. Next time I'll have nice aluminum I can just drop into the, you know, end of the crucible and go with it. So now we've got to get the lid off of my box full of green sand. The last time I did this, I melted little holes in parts of the ridge of the box, not the lid, but the box, because the stuff was hot. I was in a hurry and I took it out too fast. But this time I'll let it cool down to where it should be nicely handleable and nothing discolored. You can see the little holes in the rim there, a couple of them where I managed to melt them. It doesn't apparently mess up the sand in any way, but I wish I hadn't done it. Alright, so there we go. We got it dumped in there. You can see the aluminum sticking out of the sand a little bit. So I got to get over there and try and clean the sand out of all the cracks and crevices between all the different pieces. And sometimes I don't get enough of it out of there, and I have to go and wash it off with the water hose, which of course cuts down on the amount of green sand left over. But I think this time I can get most of it cleaned up. That little muffin looking thing, that's you know, like there's a square that was one of the internal risers. I popped him off, and the little muffin looking guy, he's on a little tighter. It's actually the cap off of a spray can. But there you go. There's the backwards writing for the inner piece. It's got a little flashing around it that I'm going to have to cut off. And there's the big piece, and it says ARW, just sort of okay. Not perfect, but there you are. And so now all I got to do is take this inside and cut all the pieces apart, and then I'll come back and show you what we've got when we get through with it. So I cut a lot of flashing off, and those backwards letters there, Chuck can maybe machine that off, and this part come out looking a lot better than I thought. And here I am holding it above the view of the camera, but there you are with a lot of the flashing removed, and it's looking to me, it's looking pretty good. So at this point, let's go see what Bubba's doing. You know, he's always up to something, and I think that I'll be able to, you know, if I need this again, I've still got the patterns. I'll throw them in a drawer with all the other patterns, and someday when they have my estate sale, people will say, what the heck is this junk, you know, and they won't sell it with the foundry or the green sand or anything. All that will be sold in pieces, and you know how that goes. All right, here goes with Bubba. I know Bubba's up to something. Bubba's got an Uncle Bubba. Yeah, they don't go to a lot of different names in that family. I guess they figured if they like one, it ought to be good enough for everybody. But anyway, Uncle Bubba's married a gal named Fancy, and so one night Fancy woke up. Uncle Bubba wasn't there in the bed, and so she went around the house looking for him, found him in the kitchen. He's just sitting there staring at the wall. Every now and then he'd wipe a tear out of his eye. She said, well, what's the matter, Bubba? He says, well, it's the 20th anniversary of the day we met. And she just can't believe he remembered that, you know. And she starts to tear up some, and he says, you remember 20 years ago when we started dating? He says, I was 18 and you was only 16. And she fancy, kind of dropped another tear. Yeah, I sure do. He says, and you remember when your father caught us in the back seat of my car? And she says, yeah, yeah. And he says, you remember how he stuck that shotgun in my face and told me that I was going to marry you, or he's going to send me to prison for 20 years? She says, well, yeah. He says, well, I would have got out today. Choices.